Welcome to Founders Feature, a podcast powered by Closers.io, where we dive into the journeys of innovative entrepreneurs and explore the road ahead for them and their companies. I'm your host, Zach Young, and in each episode, we uncover the stories behind impactful ventures, the challenges faced along the way, and the strategies driving their future growth. Today, we're joined by Laura Derbyshire, founder of Ozer, a growth marketing consultancy that helps investor-backed startups and scale-ups unlock brand clarity, marketing momentum, and bold ideas to drive measurable business growth. With over 20 years leading creative and strategic campaigns for major international brands as a former managing director and partner at award-winning global agencies, plus experience as a non-executive director at Citywire, Laura blends investor-savvy strategy with big agency creativity. Laura, a very, very warm welcome to Founders Feature.
Thank you. Nice to be here.
Absolutely. Going to be a great episode, a lot to dive into. Before we do, I do like to start with your background though. So I know I touched on it a little bit, but if you could kind of walk us through what were you doing before Ozer and what was really your inspiration to get into this space?
Yeah, so I think this kind of started even when I was really young, because I used to, quite sadly to admit, but I used to tape ads like Nike ads when I was little. So I was always interested in brand and creativity. And I think the idea of ad agencies was something that I just loved when I was younger. So that was always in me, and always something like me and my brother used to pretend we were doing TV ads and stuff, like, back in the day. And then I joined a graduate scheme well, I thought it was an ad agency. It was actually direct mail. So I thought I was doing TV, but I wasn't. And then I just kind of went all the way through ad agencies. I knew I wanted to set something up myself, but I wasn't exactly sure what I wanted to do. And I think the way that my brain works, I'm very kind of left and right brain thinking. So the sort of strategy and the creativity sitting together is something that I sort of naturally do, and I really enjoy. So I always like the sort of business side of what are you doing as a business, and then the creativity. So I started off in agencies and I went through all of them. I did pretty much everything you could do, working with big brands like Samsung, Haribo, you've kind of mentioned some as well. And then I actually got asked to MD a media agency, which was really different to what I'd done before, because I'd always been in creative agencies. And so I MD'd this. It was actually a new media, so I did a lot of YouTube, and it was all performance-led kind of marketing. So it was like really interesting to sort of almost open the bonnet on the kind of metric side, because a lot of the stuff I'd done within creative agencies, it was more sort of long-term thinking, whereas obviously the performance side is much short-term metric driven. So, and it was actually part of a family office, so I had to report directly into the investors. And that was quite a different scenario to reporting into, within being on a board within ad agency. It was, different, you can imagine, different set of metrics and growth plans. And we went to a few conferences. One was this Goldman Sachs symposium, and I saw a lot of pitching, and I kind of fell into the land of startups really, and kind of scale ups. And I was talking to a lot of founders and CEOs because I was fascinated by that world. And I just thought there was a gap in the market. There seemed to be a lot of fragmented digital companies, freelancers, maybe some bad advice on sort of brand building. And I just thought, actually, I've got so much experience across so many different channels. I really want to bring that kind of big agency, big thinking into this world, which I hadn't. So that's kind of what started the whole thing. I just thought, I'm going to just dive right into the world of startups, which I did from the absolute bottom up, because obviously I set up my own company. So that was a start in itself. And then I was in startup pitching with people that were literally like, early stage. So I started right there, and then I've kind of grown with the clients, getting more towards the land I used to be in terms of agencies.
Got it. Okay. Very organic there. I'm curious. So, investor-backed startups, scale-ups, companies just starting out, any specific niche there, tech, anything like that? Or are you working with a wide variety of companies?
It's a really wide range. There's a lot of companies that are, they've got some element of tech to them. So we've done quite a bit of stuff. So we've done FMCG. There's been quite a lot of kind of, D2C, direct to consumer. So for example, we've worked with the company called Letterbox Cocktails that delivers literally straight to your door, that was born out of lockdown. And, this is the sort of nature, I guess, of the sort of new businesses that come up responding to a need. We've worked with a lot of tech-based. We've worked across B2B, B2C, so health tech, fintech, art tech, anything plus tech. So yeah, so it's been a very, very wide, it's pretty wide mix, I would
Very
say.
good. Very good. I love it if you could kind of walk us through how you structure your work with your clients. So, what does working with Laura and Ozer look like?
So it depends on the client and the stage, the stage they're in, and what the setup is. So one of the reasons that I set it up as a consultancy was because, especially because once companies are at a sort of scale up stage, they tend to have a digital agency. They might have some designers in-house. They might have a bit of a design agency. So I set it up as a consultancy so that we can offer anything from a project base through to a retainer. But the sort of services and the work we offer is very much sat at the table with the founders, with the CEO, with, as in like almost like we are a board level kind of member of the team. And then we help work alongside who they already have. So sometimes we fill in the gaps, because sometimes, for example, I'll do fractional CMO work, or I've started to do this nano CMO, which is sort of sometimes might just plug in a gap before they're finding the right person, or just they don't need a full-time, even a fractional CMO as such. They just need someone every now and then to sit at that kind of more CMO level. So it's usually a project base where we'll do a piece of strategy. So we might do a strategic workshop. We might do a whole piece of strategy. They might be we work with a client who is Series A that was looking to they just got their investment. They were looking to launch a product, and they had a digital agency. They had a creative team, but they needed some creative strategy. They didn't have the budget to go to a full-on, and didn't really need to go to a full agency to do something like that. So I worked on the creative strategy for them, and then worked in tandem and basically put the activation plan together. So we did a session. I took all their brand docs and where they were. I looked at what the plan was for everything. And then I did a piece of consolidated work with the COO and the founder to get to where they needed to go. And then they had that piece of work. Then we did a brand book. So again, they had designers in-house, but I helped curate to get them to do this brand book. And then they created it in-house because they had the designers. And then we worked on the launch plan. And then there's usually a bulk of work at the beginning, and then I sort of peel off whilst the team activates what they need to do. And then they just had me sort of on a retainer for, days per month where I could just jump in if anyone, just to check where things were going and optimize and make sure that things were on plan as such. And the creative team were kind of getting the scripts and everything over that they needed to.
Got it. Yeah, as you mentioned, that's a true consultancy, right? We talked about the big agencies, so you're really coming along, even maybe their own teams they already have, and just working with them through the process. So like you said, filling the gaps. Very cool.
Yeah, because I think now, there's more, and it's such an interesting time, because there's so much more content that's being pushed out. There's so much more activity, and back in the day, ad campaigns and things would take such a long time to get out. Whereas those timelines are gone these days, everything's so short and quick. And so lots of companies have started to bring in-house elements. And then they've also got the agencies that they might work with. But then what I find when I talk to founders and when I talk to CEOs is there's a sort of missing link sometimes of someone who's kind of working, because they're in the day-to-day and they're trying to get things just moving and focusing on kind of short-term and where they are in terms of board demands, investor demands, and, keeping everything moving. So they don't necessarily have the time, even though it's all in their head, they don't have the time to really step away and sort of do that, thinking about working on the business. And so we can just sort of plug in at that point, sit with them, curate everything. All they need to do is turn up. Sometimes we do things with even just they put information. We've got like type form things that we just kind of get out. So when, it's like 8:00 at night and they'll just be filling in the details, and then we'll take all of that and we'll do something with it. And then we'll then run a session. So we're always just thinking about, having been in those companies, just thinking about optimizing people's time and thinking about where we add value so that we can get them to the best place they want to be in. So it's a partnership, and people come, people like clients come back. So depending on where they are and at what point, we either do, often it's a kind of project at the beginning, and then they figure out where they use us, and then they're like, oh, we need some help with a brief, or we want to think about we want to do a bit of a workshop around this, or we want to think about how we're going to move into this sector, or we're now thinking about we might need some repositioning or to get into a new category, or we did a repositioning and rebrand with a fintech. They saw the opportunity within lifestyle, so they needed to get into lifestyle, so we helped them to deliver that. And then it drops down. Sometimes it might be over a year, so it's retained. The Citywire stuff that I did was over 3 years, because they were consolidating. There was a lot to do. They were consolidating the brand, and they were bringing in kind of paid subscriptions, and a whole marketing team that I helped get the right people for them to work with.
Yeah. You said we a couple times, so I have to assume you've built out a team that's working with you. Can you kind of walk us through the team?
Yeah, sorry. So it's changed quite a bit. And at the moment I've brought it right back. So I'm currently working with an amazing guy that I used to work with actually in ad agencies, called Diego Chicharo. He was ex-head of brand effectiveness at Publicis, which is a huge global agency. And so we're kind of the key consultants at the moment. And then we have someone that helps kind of with admin and sort of getting stuff together. But to be honest, I've actually, the great thing about having spent the last sort of 5 years within startups and seeing what's out there is I'm plugged into all of the AI and all the stuff. So I've kind of where I've got to, and where I think is really interesting, is if you've got the right kind of strategy and the right thinking, and you've got access to a lot of this AI, you can automate a lot of things. So because what we're doing is consultancy, and on purpose, we want to be agnostic. We're not trying to squeeze somebody, because this is another thing that, working in agencies, you've got to bear in mind, you've got a shed load of designers or digital or whatever's going on that you've got to pay for, that are on the payroll. So, it's kind of hard not to just have that always in your head. So I wanted to just be completely agnostic and look at strategically, this is what your business should do. And it doesn't make any odds to me what those channels are or what you're doing. So we will then scale up based on who's right for a project as and when we need it. But yeah, it's very hands-on in terms of me and Diego on this.
Yeah, absolutely. Look into the back end of the business for a second. How are your clients currently finding you to work with you?
So it started off kind of referrals. So it was a mix of events, referrals, and then I've started to do more and more. I've started to do more kind of speaking, so keynote speaking stuff, webinars, LinkedIn. I've done some paid LinkedIn, obviously organic LinkedIn. I'd spent a lot of money I did a sort of new business email outreach maybe 3 years ago, which just didn't work. But I've actually taken that in-house at the moment. I mean, I think also it was possibly our positioning and what we were, how we were selling ourselves, may well not have been how it should have been. But yeah, it's a combination. The cold, it's a slow burn, but the cold outreach has started to work for us. So we tend to, we'll do it's a combination as is everything. So it's a combination of cold outreach, like from LinkedIn, from email, then it goes through to a calendar invite. We've also set up, so do I need a fractional CMO? That you can do a growth check. So we've done sort of added value, bit of lead lead magnet, and then we're doing these webinars. So we're offering, we're just kind of going out with, this is the stuff we know, this is the stuff we think is valuable to our audience. So yeah, it's mainly come through meeting people at events, referrals, and some cold outreach, which.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay. I'd love to ask about, you mentioned paid advertising on LinkedIn. Definitely different than doing like paid ads on Meta or something like that. LinkedIn's tough, I've heard. What was your experience with it?
So, well, we've actually done LinkedIn. So we've done quite a few campaigns for LinkedIn with clients, because when I started, we were kind of, we would do a bit of strategy, and then, and they were like, well, could you do this? So then we'd just we'd find out. I've obviously been going for so many years, so I know quite a lot of people, so I know good people. So I'd be like, yeah, okay, we can do the LinkedIn campaign for you, or, we can do this, we can do that. And so we've done a few. It's more expensive because we've also done from a meta point of view, we've done a few of those as well. But LinkedIn is expensive. It's not expensive from a brand awareness point of view. So actually, most of the stuff that we've done, that we've been managing, has just been pure brand awareness advertising rather than the paper, the actual pay-per-click, which is much higher to do something, just to kind of get the name out there and just to sort of explain what we're doing. Yeah, I think LinkedIn is tricky because obviously it also, there's like anything. It's like a bit like Pareto law, right? There's kind of 80-20 rule. They're going to push the people, and then that just, like anything, it just more, because you're the one that's got the voice, you continue to be a Goliath. So it is tricky. I think new business, for everyone, a business is no business without new business. So it is probably, I think you can solve every other problem. If you can solve new business, you can solve everything else.
Sure. Yeah. So many people, great business. They're a great coach. They're a great whatever. If you can't bring people in, no one's going to know how great you are. So
exactly.
Great point there. Great point there. Laura, you've been in this space a long time. I'm curious about the future a little bit. Let's say the next 1 to 2 years. Are there any goals you've set for yourself in the business you're looking to achieve?
So we definitely want to, in terms of the clients that we're looking for to grow, we've started, like I said before, we've grown up as the clients have grown up. So more Series A, getting into more the sort of 10 million plus, because that, I think, is the real sweet spot of, they have agencies, they have, but it can often be fragmented, and and they're not getting access to being, even if you get near a kind of classic agency, you're going to be on the bottom rung of the agency. You're going to be the bottom rung of who they're dealing with, so you're not going to get their full attention. So I think for us, that's our kind of, that's our real sort of sweet spot where we can add value. I also think, just because of what's happening with AI, and there is so much, I can see it. There's so much because obviously it's great to think like, oh, I don't really need all these people. I can just kind of use AI. And there's a sort of lazy approach to that, which you can see a mile off. And there's a sort of forgetting about the brand side and just fully focusing on the performance. But at some point you run out, once you're big enough anyway, the performance side doesn't work. So it's definitely getting into more the sort of the bigger end of the scale ups, where I know we're going to add value. And then we're also looking to do some kind of more retreats, because I've got a real thing about creativity in business, and I think AI and the way that we all operate is just leading us more and more to this sort of type A left brain thinking, and actually being, because it's so counterintuitive to step away from the business and sort of not do the business and try and think about something else. It feels like, oh, we're just, it's a day off or something, or we're not maximizing our time. But being able to actually engage and think more divergently around what you're doing, can really pay dividends in the future. So there's kind of that side. And then we're working with a couple of, just from the more kind of investor side, because we've got these links, in terms of from the investor side. So I'm trying to just bring in the sort of the triangle of kind of scale ups, investment, and then the kind of strategic creative thinking. There's a bit of a Venn diagram, but that's not a triangle, is it? That's a circles.
Whatever kind of diagram. I love it.
Some shapes.
We can create our own shapes. It's 2025. All right. Very
Exactly.
good. Laura, pleasure having you on the show today. Where can the listeners find you? Where can they connect with you online?
So on LinkedIn, I'm Laura Derbyshire. Instagram, it's o.s.e.r. And TikTok is at Laura Derbyshire Ozer.
TikTok. I would not have guessed TikTok for you personally.
Hey,
is it just a personal favorite?
Well, I was just so intrigued. I didn't go on TikTok for a long time, and And then I thought, well, I can't be advising clients and be in marketing without having some understanding of what happens on TikTok. So I went on it for a long time just to get I mean, the algorithm is insane. But yeah, it's interesting. There's quite a lot of venture stuff on there. There's quite a lot of investment and venture that's actually very good. I mean, the great thing about the algorithm is if you find something interesting, it will absolutely serve that to you within 3 seconds. So if you do find the right thing, it's there's some good stuff on there. Yeah.
Love it. Yeah, it's TikTok obviously has a negative viewpoint, right? But you just got to go searching for the good stuff and it'll feed it to you. So good point there.
Yeah, I mean it's highly addictive, but I've found, especially from the kind of raising capital from VCs, from smart people talking about what it takes to get in front of an investor or what to do from an investment point of view. I think there's some good companies on there.
Love it. Very good. Laura, pleasure having you on. Thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you.
Absolutely. And that will wrap up another inspiring episode of the Founders Feature. To our listeners, if you enjoyed this episode, make sure to go and connect with Laura on the business on all their social media and websites. All those links will be in the show notes and description down below. And if you are a business owner, specifically a coach, consultant, or agency owner, and you're looking to scale your business, and you really want to enhance your sales and marketing efforts, visit closers.io to hop on a call with our team and discover how we went from 0 to 30 million per year in less than 3 years. Until then, keep on climbing.